Oftentimes when situations happen, sometimes unfortunate, people use the expression saying, I know how you feel. Well, I take issue with that because unless a person has experienced something, they can't really know. They might can have a little sympathy, but they say, I feel like you or things like that. But in order to have certain feelings, in order to respond to certain kinds of information, in order to be familiar with certain kinds of scenarios, you must have experienced them. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems that I think happens in society, those of us who are in leadership positions tend to assume that we know what people from in all walks of life need, and then too often we don't consult with them and talk to them and ask them what they need. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very happy today to be involved and engaged in a conversation that deals with the community and deals with what are the problems of the community from the community's perspective, not necessarily the elected officials and the heads of non-profits and the preachers and all of those people who, it's important. But in order to get a real feel of what's going on in the community, then I think we have to reach out to the community. And guess what? The Community Foundation did that with the support of several other organizations with an event called On the Table. So I have with me today Miss Nancy Cleveland and Miss Catherine Dennis, both of whom are with the Community Foundation. And we're going to have a discussion on the On the Table event that happened last year, and we're also going to talk about the repeat of the On the Table event that's going to happen in October
30th. Wednesday, October 30th.
Yeah, of this year. But let me do my final little comment, and I know Catherine said I was going to do all the talking. And I'm
I did not say you do all the talking. You do your fair share.
I'm going to surprise her, but let me publicly thank you and the Community Foundation and all of the other entities. I know you didn't do it alone.
Thank you.
I know that there were other participants, but it meant so much to me to see an effort to really see how the people feel, to give everybody an opportunity to have input on what's affecting their lives and their view and their vision of what can make things better for them. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
And
thank everybody who was involved in that. So we're going to begin with Miss Nancy. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the On the Table experience.
Well, I have to stop saying I'm new. I've been there for about 7 months now with the Community Foundation as their Communications and Development Associate, and On the Table was one of my first big projects, and I love the turnout that we had. And going forward, it's just my intention to make it bigger and better. And going off of what you said, if you want to hear the real stories, you need to get the real people, and getting on the ground with them was a great thing for us.
Thank you. And Ms. Catherine Dennis, who's the CEO,
Correct.
Executive Director, CEO?
President
and
yes.
CEO?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, of the Community Foundation of Central Georgia. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement.
Okay. Well, I've been at the foundation now almost 17 years, and I'll say that On the Table was the most rewarding thing that I've been a part of in my tenure at the foundation, because it lived out what we had already been doing, which is when in our grant making and in community convenings, was we want to ask the people who are involved, what is it that's important to you? And when we've shifted our grant making to say, you tell us what you are working on, what you need, and apply to us for that. We're not going to dictate to you what needs to be done. And I've heard this saying so many times, not for me, without me. And I think that is so important in our role as grant makers to do that, and also though to connect the people in our community who have big hearts and they want to help and they want to know how can they best take action and finance good projects. So On the Table though is real change doesn't happen unless we really know each other and start having conversations.
Right.
And now you can't just talk about it all the time, but when you bring people together with diverse backgrounds, you're going to get better ideas, and you can accomplish so much if you do that. And so On the Table was a day of community conversations, and morning, all day, from 7:30 till 8 o'clock at night. And I think the last conversation wrapped up about 10 o'clock on that night. And it truly was about conversation and bringing people together. And this year, we want to make sure that we have even more people. And so,
Talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the mechanics, because you got all those people together. Exactly how did that happen? How did that occur? Because, I participated in one and just several other on the tables, if you
Yes.
please,
Okay.
went on throughout the community. Talk a little bit about how that happened and
Well-
putting that together. But before you say that, though, let me say something.
Yes.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Hamilton.
Waiting for that. Waiting for that.
Loves that.
I'd love to say
Interviewing
that.
Miss Nancy Cleveland and Miss Catherine Dennis. So go ahead.
Thank
Miss
you.
Nancy.
I feel like that question gives me the opportunity to just brag about Macon and Macon Nights and the residents and the community that makes up the organizations here, because it was the people who showed up and showed out. All we did was put the message out there, and we took an educational approach and it tried to explain to people what On the Table was, that it was a national initiative, and the date. And honestly, it wasn't until we were able to go to Miami for a debrief with 10 other cities that participated in On the Table this year that I realized Macon really wants to get involved. Macon has a big heart, and Macon wants to help in comparison to some other cities who did not have that type of turnout. So we put the information out there, we planted the seed, and Macon Nights watered it. So it's on the community.
It was very, it's so simple, it's complicated. That was my mantra. People kept saying, there's gotta be more to it. All it was someone committed to host a meal. It could be a snack, or you could be Dutch treat, it could be cocktails, it could be breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you wanted to do, dessert. But you committed to bring people together, as the host did, and we gave some training to those hosts who wanted it. We found some people that thought, well, I can just do this, but we had a host toolkit and we had prompts that people could, so that they could keep the conversation going. But what we found was that people really responded to tables that had a theme to them, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you asked about mechanics. So we shared it through social media particularly. We did a lot of talking to community groups.
We ran promo on WMAZ, and we did some radio ads as well.
And but we were able to, we had a website. And so individuals, well, first of all, we had to get the host. That's important. You can't have people sign up unless they have a place to go congregate. And so we split them up on our website so you could see it by geography. We had a map so that we had tables in every zip code. So you could say, all right, well, I live in South Macon, or I live in East Macon, and you could look to see what tables were there. You could click there. Or you could say, I can only go at 6 o'clock at night. So you could go and look at our website and see 6 o'clock. Or I am really interested in food scarcity, or I'm really interested in recidivism and reentry. You could look for, we had tables by topic. So everybody could, and then you went to our website, you clicked on it, and you could register for a table.
Right.
And then about half of our tables, though, were private tables where, let's just say I wanted to have a group of my friends over to dinner, and I invited them, and we had a conversation. And so you could have a public table where you wanted to meet new people and make new friends, or you could just want to have a deeper discussion with your friends. And so we saw all of that.
Wow.
5,000 people that day at over 600 tables.
That's absolutely phenomenal. Now, it's very important that the community understands the significance and the crux of this, because as I said in my introduction, too often, people up here assume that they know what's going on down here. And I believe very strongly that that's not the case. If we've got problems, you got to approach them from the bottom
Yes,
up.
sir. Yes, sir.
And that's what this accomplished. Well, what did you find out from, because they didn't just sit down and talk, because the object was not just a conversation, Well, you said the object was to glean the information
Yes.
from the. So what did you find out?
Oh, we'll divide this, but tell
Okay.
you into two sections. We actually have survey data. We asked the participants to take a survey so that we could really have some concrete information about what was on the minds of the citizens. And then we also have some really great stories. We made some grants called Conversation to Action grants that people who participated could ask for seed money for an idea that bubbled up.
Wow.
And then I've got a real life story that somebody just shared with me today about somebody that I didn't even know had done anything with her conversation. So I'll tell you about that. But you want to talk about the data, or what do you want to talk about the
I'll
conversation?
talk a little bit about the data and the Conversation to Action grants. What we got tangible from it, again, 782 people, adults, took the survey and they gave us they say men lie, women lie, numbers don't. They gave us a concrete example of how people feel in Macon. We can say 66% of people feel more hopeful about where the community is going. We can say 65% of people participated on the table and exchanged information with someone they didn't know. So we have those numbers to show you why it was impactful. Outside of that, though, going off of the last statement you made about going from the bottom up, those were our Conversation to Action grants. I think about Ms. June O'Neill with the Mentors Project, who held a job fair in Unionville in the middle of an empty lot, and all the residents walked there. Not one single person drove. One person got a job on the spot.
And a sheriff crew cleaned up the lot.
And
for
cleaned
them.
up the lot for them to do it.
Before they did the job fair.
We also had Antonia Williams out in Pleasant Hill buying winter coats. How many children were able to have a winter coat this winter because he was able to, again, go from the bottom up? And there's so many other projects that are coming on that haven't been implemented yet, but they're in the process stages, like Scott Mitchell's public bathroom initiative downtown, where when he sat with the homeless, they told him, all these resources are amazing, but we just wish we had somewhere to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
And so he's taking on that initiative from them, and you see how having that conversation, meeting people where they're at, and then giving people the little support that they need to get it done is helping you come up with that success from the bottom up.
Jill Vanderhoek at Community Partnership, which is our Family Connection Collaborative, she's organizing a group to marshal our community resources like church buses and figure out how can we coordinate trips to grocery stores for those people in a food desert but who don't have access to a grocery store, or to a laundromat. I mean, so how can we use community resources that are already there? And these are just individuals that are doing this. But the story I heard today, it gives me goosebumps. This lady does not live on this street, but she works on Lamar Street, and Lamar Street is off of Vineville, and it's got apparently a lot of blighted properties. And she came to a historic Macon. She just saw it advertised, but she came to a historic Macon Foundation on the table conversation, and she was inspired. And so she. Somebody said, well, you can get a Conversation to Action grant. She said, I don't need money. I just need to get, and that's what I really was so excited, because that's really the message is, you don't need a lot of things. You don't need money. You just need to decide you're going to do it. And so she organized the residents on Lamar Street to clean up and get rid of blight. And then the county a couple of weeks ago had a day where you could have a neighborhood cleanup, and they would bring you a dumpster. And that morning they completely filled a dumpster and they mowed every single yard on Lamar Street. And that was just that one lady from a conversation saying, maybe I'll need money later as I get into it, but right now, that's my little stretch of the world, and I can personally organize and make a difference. And I think that's the power of On the Table, that it's not about who's going to do something for me. It's going to be it's empowering people to feel like they can take control and they can do something.
And then you can take control without having to get to a decision maker, or without having to have the power. You can take control from where you're at. Right. But then the beauty about On the Table is that we do the twofold, because if you participate in the survey is read by the decision makers.
Right.
So your voice is heard by the powers that be, but we also are helping you re-envision what is possible in Macon.
Mayor Rickard led with his State of the Community this year with On the Table data. He led with it, and throughout he talked about the data that was in that. So, and that was our pledge, was that we hoped that the government would use that to shape their things. Sheriff Davis and Crime Stoppers announced a plan to to
Announce the top 15
Yes.
most wanted criminals in Macon, and they refresh it every 90 days. And that also came from On the Table
because
survey.
the number one concern for adults and for children was crime and violence.
Right.
And so, I mean, to me, that the sheriff's department and crime department, I mean, they took that to heart and they're doing something about it. And I think
Right.
they've already arrested like 4 of them
Right.
now. So I think that so you can do something in your own little area, but by participating and giving your opinion in the survey, that helps public policy. And so it's important.
Well, what I'm reminded of are 2 expressions. One, don't just stand there, do something. And On the Table provided an opportunity for one to do
Yes.
something if in fact he or she had a concern. And the other expression is, if it is to be, it's up to me. So I think that the On the Table activity mirrors that. And what we want to do, and I'm gonna look at the camera so everybody can see me, and that means that I'm probably talking to you. You can make yourself a committee of one. If there is something about which you are concerned, just try to initiate some kind of effort like the lady did on Lamar Street. If you need some help, I'm gonna give you Nancy's number. So you can call Nancy and she can direct you to other resources. She looking at me, I give you my number too.
Yeah.
You got both of them.
So we just want to encourage before we delve into the upcoming On the Table, but we want to encourage people now. They're going to tell you all about it, but please consider being involved and do what we all can do to try to help the community.
Before we jump to that next stage, I was reminded when you were talking about that I am personally very action oriented. Let's make a plan, let's do the plan, and together with a deadline, and together but together we can do this. But I was reminded that I'm in a different stage of life, and that people have different stages of their life, and that you might have a young family that they're keeping their jobs and taking care of their kids, and that's really, they're over and they think, all right, if Catherine just says, well, you got to take action, that's a little intimidating. So action isn't necessarily I'm going to organize the community cleanup. Action can be going and meeting somebody new and talking to them. And 65% exchanged information with somebody they didn't know.
Right.
So that's action, is just putting yourself out there, that it's not, we're not asking you unless you want. We're hoping there are going to be a lot of people that are committed, and that it's up to you to do something. That you're going to feel that call. But realizing that there's a time and place in your life. I was reminded one time when I went to the Georgia Women of Achievement induction ceremony, and it's the posthumous awards that you don't get inducted until you're dead. And I was so taken aback though that most of the women had done what they were being honored for, they had done in their 70s and their 80s. Oh, and I thought, well, why am I in such a blasted hurry? That really you have to see that there's seasons of life. But so your action, I just want people to hear too that what we really want, and I'm gonna look at the camera too, is we really want you to come and have a conversation, and just give an hour and a half and go meet somebody new, or just have it with the people that you're comfortable with. But talk about the future of our community and what you love about it, what could be better. No place is perfect. No person is perfect. And so, but there are positives. And I think the more we look at that, then the community as a whole feels better. But again, that 67% after having those conversations, even talking about all the things that we know could be better and are scary, we're all hopeful because we feel good in our world that we're gonna be okay.
Right.
And I think also they were hopeful because they had just had the conversation.
Yes.
If you had asked them if they were hopeful prior to, they probably would have been like, oh, it's all, especially with the worries that they were having around that time.
One of the problems in the community, a lot of people think that nobody cares. That's a feeling that permeates the community. Well, with On the Table, I think that sends the signal
We
that
do
people
care.
do care.
People do
They
deeply,
do want to help,
deeply.
and those grants, those $1,000 grants that you all were able to
Yes.
give, that came out of somebody caring and somebody wanting to do something. Wasn't a lot of money, but it's a jump start. Everything begins with an idea.
Yes. it does.
Everything begins with an idea. So what we want to do, and I'm sure that Miss Nancy Cleveland and Miss Catherine Dennis concur with me, is to emphasize the people that get involved. I mean, even if it's just a conversation, even if it's just a suggestion, just don't complain.
Yeah.
That's a pet peeve.
Yes, yes,
I hate the complaints.
Yeah.
I really do. We had some sticklers in the beginning when they were like, what is on the table and all this other stuff. But for me, I think also, if you don't want to start a nonprofit, if you don't want to reinvent the wheel, the best thing that you can do is tell a different story. And that's what I hope On the Table Macon 2018 and 2019 helps you do. Macon has to have a sense of pride
Yeah.
about being a Maconite. And I think for me, being born here but having grown up here, I have that New York pride, but I have to have Macon pride
Right.
because I can't exist in a place that I am not prideful
Right,
for.
right.
So for me, that's just how I function.
Right.
And I want other people to feel that too. We're always going to have the bad stuff. Always, always, always. But we don't have to lead with it.
Yeah.
And I think some of the initiatives and the things that came from On the Table help you to lead with something different.
We're going to take a break. And this is a call to action.
A call to action.
And I'm your host, Alex Halbershaw, interviewing Miss Nancy Cleveland and Miss Catherine Dennis of the Central Georgia Community Foundation. We'll be right back with On the Table. We're back. We're engaged in a very, very interesting conversation. And oftentimes there's conversation that's just conversation. Like sometimes you're in an activity that's going to be the same thing. Like when you're playing Nintendo, well, those things going to do the same thing all the time. That's just called, it's automatic. But oftentimes as it relates to humans and human interaction and community activities, they're not rote. They don't happen automatically, which means that we can change things and we can make things better for everybody. But what it takes is for everybody to be involved and conscientious. Now, Nancy don't want you complaining. I'm telling you, she doesn't want you complaining. But she wants you to say, if you've got an idea, an observation, then call her or call somebody. I think we can post on the On the Table website the different resources. We'll find a way to have a vehicle for you to express your ideas. On the Table is the best way, really.
Absolutely.
And we've got another one coming up. So let's talk about the upcoming On the Table.
October 30th, 2019. It's the day before Halloween. You can definitely have Halloween themed tables. So it should be a fun event.
It's a Wednesday night, and so if you consider talking to your church and to your pastor and asking that your Wednesday night supper or Bible study be around On the Table, that we put it on Wednesday night, thinking that was a good, that we have as a natural gathering time for people. And we heard from the last one that we didn't have enough opportunities for people to talk at night. So you could consider your church even, or personally, hosting a table at night where people could be willing to, you'd be willing to let them come after work and be able to have a
Let
conversation.
me say this right quickly.
Yes.
So that's an opportunity for you to get your church involved. Hey, we are the church capital of the world. And since we got so many churches in Macon, since we got more than anybody else, then maybe we ought to have more On the Table discussions at churches,
Yes.
next time.
And that's actually a point to drive home, because not only is it a good idea to have more churches involved, from the On the Table survey results from last year, people specifically identified our churches as being the decision makers and the leaders in changing the community. So people want the churches to get involved. So it's really about letting your church know what you already have said you want. And maybe if it's up to me, maybe it's something that that you take a leadership role in. But we definitely should have more churches involved, and we want to have more underrepresented populations involved. We were lucky enough to have tables with the homeless in the jail or Daybreak, but we want to have tables with the Methodist home, and we want to provide more materials in Spanish, and we just want to start filling and reaching the crevices.
And so if you feel like your voice isn't being heard, and you have ideas for groups that we can approach to help us host tables, we're very interested in that. So if you'll call the Community Foundation at 478-750-9338, 478-750-9338, and you can ask for Nancy Cleveland or Catherine Dennis, and we'll be glad to talk to you and help us see if we can arrange a time for us to meet with you to talk about your organization. You can also email us at
in Cleveland, NCLEVELAND, Cleveland, just like the city, at cfcga.org.
And our website for On the Table is onthetablemaking.com. onthetablemaking.com, and it'll have all the information about it, but it also has the data from the first year. So if you're interested in looking, you can slice and dice that data any way you want, and there's also an overview if you just want the executive summary.
You'll also see updates on our Conversation to Action grant and pictures from some of the projects that were completed already. And if you are computer savvy and you have a Facebook account, you can also search On the Table Making on Facebook and join our Facebook group. And we have people who are posting and telling you other ways to get involved, and we'll also keep you updated with next year's event in that group.
And so, Alex, our call to action to the community is to please attend a table, and if you are so inclined, host a table, host a conversation, because we need to hear from everybody. I mean, and you do that. We had 5,000 participants. I said, I want 5 digits. I want over 10,000 people in our community talking on that one day, and then also completing the survey. And survey's overwhelming, but it doesn't take long. It takes less than 10 minutes. But again, we tried to show you that data really is useful, and so it is a really great. It's like voting. You can make your voice heard, and it is out there and it's being used.
And I will also beat you guys over the head about the survey as well, especially in terms of demographics. We had about 34% of African Americans and 3% of Hispanics take the survey. And for the demographic makeup of Macon-Bibb County, we definitely want more African Americans, Hispanics, and people of color taking that survey so that we can hear what your opinions are as well. Also, we want people who haven't who are in different segments in their life in the population. We want everyone's opinion. All of it matters to take the survey.
Okay, give us that contact information again, your email.
Okay, my email is incleveland, NCLEVELAND @cfcga.org. If you can't remember that, you can also just email On the Table at cfcga.org. And you can call us at 478-750-9338. You can also go to onthetablemaking.com or search On the Table Making on social media and contact us any of those ways.
Final words?
Thank you for having us, and thank y'all for participating, and we look forward to seeing you on October 30th, 2019.
Yes.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alexander Shem. See you on the table.